Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Now we can see the topic of Rietveld Schröderhuis Rietveld Schröderhuis. The Rietveld Schröderhuis in Utrecht was commissioned by Schröderhuis Schröder, designed by the architect Gerrit Thomas Rietveld, and built in 1924. This small family house, with its interior, the flexible spatial arrangement, and the visual and formal qualities, was a manifesto of the ideals of the De Stijl group of artists and architects in the Netherlands in the 1920s, and has since been considered one of the icons of the modern movement in architecture. The Rietveld Schröderhuis in Utrecht was commissioned by Schröderhuis Schröder, designed by the architect Gerrit Thomas Rietveld, and built in 1924. This small one-family house, with its flexible interior spatial arrangement, and visual and formal qualities, was a manifesto of the ideals of the De Stijl group of artists and architects in the Netherlands in the 1920s, and has since been considered one of the icons of the modern movement in architecture. The house is in many ways unique. It is the only building of its type in Rietveld's output, and it also differs from other significant buildings of the early modern movement, such as the Villa Savoye by Le Corbusier or the Villa Tugendhat by Mies van der Rohe. The difference lies in particular in the treatment of architectural space and in the conception of the functions of the building. Many contemporary architects were deeply influenced by the Schröderhuis, and this influence has endured up to the present. The quality of the Rietveld Schröderhuis lies in its having produced a synthesis of the design concepts in modern architecture at a certain moment in time. Part of the quality of the house is the flexibility of its spatial arrangement, which allows gradual changes over time in accordance with changes in functions. At the same time, the building has also many artistic merits, and its visual image has strongly influenced building design in the second half of the 20th century. The interiors and furniture are an integral part of its design and should be given due recognition. The Rietveld Schröderhuis was located on the edge of the city of Utrecht, close to the countryside, at the end of a 20th century row of houses. It was built against the wall of the adjacent brick house. The area beyond the house remained undeveloped, because it contained 19th century Dutch defense lines, which were still in use at the time. The Rietveld Schröderhuis in Utrecht is an icon of the modern movement in architecture and an outstanding expression of human creative genius in its purity of ideas and concepts as developed by the De Stijl movement. With its radical approach to design and the use of space, the Rietveld Schröderhuis occupies a seminal position in the development of architecture in the modern age. The entire Rietveld Schröderhuis is a museum. The house was carefully restored, and is now in excellent condition and under regular care of the Centraal Museum of Utrecht. The location of the house in its original setting, at the end of a row of houses in a small park, is unchanged. Since it was built, however, the context of the house has changed somewhat. 10 years after its construction, the city of Utrecht expanded onto the open land beyond the house, which was built upon. In the 1960s, a viaduct was constructed to accommodate the elevated route of the Waterlinieweg motorway near the house. After that, there were no further substantial changes to the surroundings. The Rietveld Schröderhuis was used as a private house for 60 years, and some changes were made according to the needs of its evolving use. In the 1970s and 1980s, the Rietveld Schröderhuis was restored to its original condition of the 1920s by Bertus Mulder, one of Rietveld's assistants. The building has maintained the authenticity of its design concept and structure. The restorations of the 1970s and 1980s were done with great care, making every effort to preserve what was possible. All the original furniture was restored and positioned as in the 1920s. Missing objects were remade on the basis of records and existing evidence. Unfortunately, owing to the poor condition of some materials, it was necessary to replace the rendering as well as various fittings. The outstanding universal value of this building lies in its being a realization of design concepts and ideas and a manifesto of the De Stijl movement. The restoration of the interiors to their 1920s aspect is justified in this case. In its essence, the Rietveld Schröderhuis stands the test of authenticity in relation to all required parameters. Please like, share and subscribe my channel.